You guys, it is time for a blanket tour. This is blanket tour number 6. I cannot believe I have done that many blankets. Like, really? Anyway, I am here to share 6, 7, 8, quite a few blankets that I have been working on and finishing up, and share with you some of the inspiration behind them and the patterns, and hopefully you'll find something that you enjoy and want to recreate. Stay tuned. The first blankets I want to share are actually 3 blankets. It's a trio that I made using this yarn in the middle here. If I were a better YouTuber, I would know where the label was for this yarn, and I would be able to tell you what it was. But because I'm not a better YouTuber, I don't remember what this was called or where the labels are. So, I'm so sorry. These are each made of one full cake of the same colorway. This is a light 3 yarn, and I usually work with bulky 6, like chunky 5, bulky 6. So I wasn't sure how much I would need to make a blanket. And then when I made the first blanket, this is a corner to corner, it made a good size for a baby blanket, and light 3s are good size, a good weight of yarn for a baby blanket. So I was like, I'm just gonna make 3 blankets one out of each of these skeins. So I used up a whole cake. It was a Caron cake, I do know that. I got it on clearance for $3 from Michael's, and the border is a gray color that I got from Hobby Lobby on clearance as well. So I spent less than $4 on this blanket, so I felt like it was a good deal. My plan is to either put this away to have as like a storage, like backup, if I have friends that are having babies and need to have a blanket there to send to that, or we have local foster care agencies that I could donate these to. I would want to donate them to them so they could send these with children when they are being placed, or potentially donate them to our local sheriff's office to keep in their vehicles for small children that are in accident scenes, or even children they're having to rescue or remove from their parents, kind of thing. I have a tendency to look at things through a foster care angle or a teacher angle, but it would be comforting to a child, especially when it's the colder months, to have something to snuggle in the back of a police car, or an ambulance, or in a scary situation. So this is a corner to corner stitch. Again, if I was a better YouTuber, I would know what it is. If I can go back and find it, I will pop it up on the screen, or I will link it down below. So there's that one. And then I made the second one out of a block stitch. Now, the block stitches that I see, you change color in between each row. So you have like little rows of the blocks, the 3 stitches that are blocks, and then you have the single crochet rows. But I didn't change colors. I just let the yarn do its thing. I used a little bit of that gray to be the border. And then on the last one, this is a simple, it's basically like the alpine stitch, but in the round. And this was a tutorial from Crystal from BOD, so I will find that and link that below for you. And used up the last of that gray to do the border. And this was the last one I made, so I just realized I never did weave in the end, either end. So by the time I got to this third one, I was really having to like push through to finish them, because I was just over it, over seeing the same colors. Even though it's different stitches, I was just over it by then. But here we are. Got them finished, and I'll probably donate these just because, I don't know, I think they'd be fun they'd be just the right size, This blanket was a lot of fun to make. Now, this is using a bulky 6, like a chunky 6 weight yarn, and that's my jam. I mean, those are the weight of yarns that I enjoyed the most. I do enjoy other yarns, but bulky 6, that's where it's at for me. But anyway, this is using a cake that I also got on clearance from Michael's. This the colored yarns is called Sweet and Sour. It's a Caron cake. They were $5. I used 3 of those in this, and then the black is actually an Ogo that I got from Joann when they did a major clearance of the Ogo yarns, probably about a year ago now. But where they did you buy 1 get 3 free. So I got some blacks, and I made this blanket already. You can check that out in blanket tour number 5. I made this blanket, but instead of using black, I used white. I really enjoyed how that looked. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make it again, but use this black, because I bought 6 cakes all together, and I used 3 on the white blanket, and I had 3 left, so I knew I had enough to make another blanket. So I was like, you know, I'm doing it, but this time I'm gonna make it with black. So I really enjoy how this worked out. Got some tassels on it. I have not in the past been big on tassels, but I give it a try, and it's not too bad. It's not the worst, you know. This is a chunky V-stitch pattern. I'll be sure to link that down below. This next blanket is an Argyle striped blanket. This is color pooling. My mom bought me 3 large balls of this colorway. It's called Lovely Blues. It's a Mainstays yarn from Walmart. Each skein was $10, so this blanket cost $30 to make. And I used 2 stitches per color. Now up close, you can't really tell the Argyle pattern, but from a distance, you really can. I think it turned out great. This is just simple color pooling. I have a whole series on that if you're interested in learning the ins and outs of color pooling. I don't have a tutorial with this particular type of yarn, just because it's kind of hard to see and hard to be able to show the stitch definition. So I wouldn't recommend starting with this yarn if you're not familiar with color pooling, but I do have tutorials on other yarns that are more friendly if you are a beginner. So check those out if you're interested in color pooling. And this is the blanket that I plan on bringing my baby home from the hospital in. So my mom, she bought it for me. She's like, make a blanket and we can bring him home with it. I'm like, okay, Mom. So Mom's excited. So my next blanket, I'm not going to pull it down because it's large. It is very large. It's this one here. This is the moss stitch in the round. I will leave the tutorial for that from TL Yarn Crafts. I'll leave that down below. But this is made out of the thick blanket yarn. I believe it's a Jumbo 7. I think it's a Jumbo 7. But this yarn was gifted to me by a friend of mine who her daughter was learning crochet and having a good time with it, and she was using this to finger knit. She was so good at it. She was so sweet, and she sold a lot of those blankets to raise money, and she was only 10 at the time. So she did all that and had a good time learning how to crochet and finger knit, and then decided to move on to other hobbies, wanted to learn something new. So they gifted me this yarn that she had left over. So this is made up completely out of scrap yarn that she had. So like this red, the red strip on there only goes halfway around because that's all the red I had, and the other half is white, and that's the only piece of white I have in there because that's all I had. So it's kind of like a scrap blanket, but I feel like the colors worked out well enough that it doesn't necessarily look like a scrap blanket. And my dogs have actually commandeered this blanket. We had it on the couch in the living room, and Kiki Vaughn especially really enjoys this blanket. So they pull it off the couch, and they paw at it and get all comfy and spin around and then lay down and relax on it. So I believe I have a picture of her laying on it, so I will insert that if I do. This blanket is also moss stitch in the round. I discovered in a different blanket I made, that I really enjoy doing the moss stitch in the round because it has a nice drape. It's still thick, it's still comfy and cozy. There's not a lot of holes in it, but it drapes very nicely. It doesn't feel stiff. So I used the velvet yarn. It's Bernat velvet yarn. I got it on clearance at Ollie's. So this is the navy color. I'm not sure if you can find it anymore, because usually when a yarn goes to Ollie's, it goes there to die. So sorry, you get it for inexpensive, but you better get all you need, because you're not going to find any more. But this center section is all of that navy Bernat velvet yarn, and then these colored rows are the loops and threads chenille yarn that I got for Christmas, and I've used it to make lots of amigurumi, and I decided to use up what I had for this blanket here. So I did a row of each of those colors, then I did another row of the blue, and then a row of each of those colors, and then just a tiny border of blue around there. I made this for a friend of mine who her son is special needs, and he's 4, and she didn't ask me to make a blanket, but I asked her if I could, and she said yes, of course, and asked her if there was any specifications for his needs, because a lot of times just children in general, they have texture specifications, things that bother them texture wise, things like that, but she said just super soft and no holes, as little holes as possible. So this moss stitch worked out really great for that it's a beautiful drape, it's nice and cozy, but there's not a lot of holes in it. And then this velvet yarn, the chenille, is super soft and cozy. So I'm excited to give it to her. I've actually had this done for quite a while, maybe a month or two, but I was saving it so I could film with it and show you guys, but I am ready to give it to her. So I was like, I need to get this done so I can give this beautiful blanket to my friend's little boy. I'm excited. Now, I try to keep my blanket tours to about 5 blankets with maybe a bonus, but I'm already past 5 because of those there being 3, and then 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm already up to 7, so what's one more, right? So I had a goal this year. I do have a video sharing my 2023 goals that I can leave linked down below if you're interested in that. But I had a goal this year to make a graphgan. If you're unfamiliar with graphgans, it's where you have pictures that you create on the blanket, putting stitches in a certain way. So for example, you use a graph, which I made this graph here. I drew it out myself because I couldn't find a pattern that I liked, and I wanted to keep it simple. So I just got some grid paper and mapped out my own graph. So I used corner to corner. You can use a single crochet and treat it almost like cross stitching. So when you're reading the graph, you can do it with like a single crochet or double, whatever stitch you'd like, and just go like straight across in the rows. Or you can do like I did and use the corner to corner stitch, where if you look closely, you'll see little arrows where I marked which direction I was going in my blanket. And so I started in this corner, which was the brown color, and I started those rows, and then I had to add on the gray. The letters here are in white, so I had to add on some white and some navy. And so for a minute there, it got a little crazy with the yarn being all over the place. And if I have a picture of that, I'll insert it for you. But I am so proud of how this turned out. I made this for, he's my husband's uncle, but my husband and I have been married for a long time, so he's my uncle too. For my Uncle Larry, who, it's been more than a year ago now, that he requested a blanket that says Navy. And so I did it. I will insert a picture so you can see the lettering better. It's not perfect by any means at all, but it's the best that I could do, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out for my first graphgan, for my first time. I'm not sure that I'll do another graphgan. I don't know. It got a little muddy for a minute. It wasn't particularly hard, especially since I have a background in cross stitching, and I have experience with mosaic crochet. So like I'm not a stranger to the like intricate designs and things like that, and this is definitely not the most intricate of designs, but I don't know, sometimes a challenge is good, but sometimes a challenge is exhausting. You're like, I did take a long pause on this blanket for at least 2 weeks because it got really muddy in there with all of these colors, and I had like yarn bobbins everywhere, and it got to be a lot. I was like, look, I need a minute. So because like, you know, moss stitching the round is a lot simpler than doing a graphgan, but I'm really proud of how this turned out. I liked the stripes, the way the stripes came out, and I like the border. I used burnout blanket yarn in the Ogo format because, again, when Joanne had that humongous sale, buy one get 3 free, I was like, give me all the yarn. All of it. And this is the colorway London. I believe I used 6 of these to make this blanket. So if I can remember, I will put the dimensions of this blanket on there in case you're interested. But I'm excited to box this up and send it over to Uncle Larry. They live up in Georgia, and so I hope he enjoys it. It's got a good drape. The corner to corner stitch, even though this is thick blanket yarn, it still has a good drape, and should be very comfy. I haven't tested it out. Usually I test out my blankets while I'm making them, but I didn't test this one out yet. So Uncle Larry, you'll have to let me know how it is. Thanks for stopping by, and I hope you enjoyed this blanket tour. If you did, please check out my playlist of tours and check out all the fun things that I have created. And don't forget, no matter what time it is, it's always time for yarn.